and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am, of course, Mr. Warren Hayes, and it's Saturday morning. Hope everyone is having a wonderful time just enjoying their coffee, for instance, or perhaps a tea, maybe some hot cocoa. It's the time of year. It's cold outside, folks. If you want to indulge in some hot, sweet beverages, go right ahead. As we talk wrestling here this morning, we're talking about WWE TLC. We're doing predictions, a prediction show this morning. Tomorrow's the pay-per-view, last WWE pay-per-view of the year. And honestly, I am really, really happy to be joined this morning to have some company to talk about TLC in the form of Patricia of the Those Wrestling Girls podcast. She decided, she was very, very gracious to wake up this morning on a Saturday and join me. Patricia, how are you?
I'm doing so good this morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. We were just talking before we got on air. Patricia was telling me, like, she lives in the northern part of the United States, and she was telling me, yeah, I'll go shut down my window, and I'm like, shut down? You close your window? What are you doing? Like, it's like minus 10 degrees Celsius outside here in my part of Canada. I'm like, my God, woman.
I like fresh air.
Fresh, brisk air. Yes, apparently. But Patricia, I'm really happy to have you here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. In case people don't know exactly who you are, and it is a shame that they don't, if they don't, why don't you let everyone just give us a rundown of what you do as far as wrestling and online stuff goes.
Cool. So like Warren said, I'm Queen PR. I am one half of Those Wrestling Girls. And if you don't know, that is a podcast and a show and a women's wrestling fan community. So we talk all things women's wrestling in and out of the ring. I'm a native New Yorker, and I've been a wrestling fan since I was 6 years old. And I've been a fan of Warren Hayes for a while now. And I'm glad that we were able to connect on Twitter, and I'm so happy to be on your show today.
Fan of Warren Hayes. Nobody wants that. That's something you brandish. It's something people talk about in discreet... Something people talk about in discreet circles late at night, shamefully crying. So, Patricia, I'm really happy you're here. And we'll plug all your stuff there at the end. We'll keep people around for the main event. So WWE TLC. Let's get right in. Oh, by the way, if you're watching this live right now on YouTube.com, we do have our live chat open, and if you're here, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. That stuff always helps. And put the tweet out, put the link out, or in a tweet, for instance, but put the link out mostly onto social media. Let's spread the word that Patricia and I are here to talk about TLC, and maybe you're even listening to this later on today on your favored podcast application of choice, because this will be available. The audio will be available later on today. After we're done recording live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Give us a like, a subscription, a thumbs up, whatever, a review, whatever you do. Yeah, just do it all. Just do it all. It's so simple. So let's get right to it then. Let's start talking about TLC, because it's like I said, it's the last pay-per-view of the year. We're closing out with this one here. WWE in December. So it's always a little weird. You know, we're just off of Survivor Series, which is always one of the biggest shows of the year. This year was particularly a big show. I thought it was a big one. So, I don't know if it's just like at this point, if everyone's really exhausted in WWE, maybe, booking and creative is all set for 2000, is already, everything is set for 2020. There's a lot of stuff, I don't know, that maybe we don't see exactly, but the build to TLC only had a couple of weeks, and boy, oh boy, it just happened so fast, and all the matches sort of appeared over 10 days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. At first, I was like, wait, there's another pay per view like 2 weeks after Survivor Series. And it's so hard to follow that, like it was a history making Survivor Series. It was action packed. We've seen things we never thought we would see before. And then it's like, oh, a week from Sunday, it's TLC. And you're like, okay, I guess that's happening.
and we didn't get any matches, right, until like really recent. Last Raw, not this week's, pardon me, but the week before that, no matches were made. There was nothing at all that was made. I remember watching Raw at the end and saying to myself, next week is the go home show and we don't know what's going on. They clearly, set some breadcrumbs, but there wasn't anything announced. But this is not the first time that we've seen WWE do this, especially this year. I think wasn't it with Hell in a Cell where they announced all the matches on the same day? How do you feel?
Yeah,
How
it was
do you
like
feel about that?
it kind of sucks, and it takes the excitement away from the pay-per-view, like because I'm used to like the long form build-ups to where like you couldn't wait to see that match because it got built up so much for like, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks. But without that build-up, it just seems like another episode, like the pay-per-views feel like another episode of Raw
Sure.
and SmackDown. And another thing that I would love to get your input on is pay-per-view matches happening on Raw or SmackDown and house shows. So if I'm seeing Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns on the road, why am I like excited about TLC?
No, that's something I agree. Of course, you always have the basic rule of thumb in WWE that if it doesn't happen on TV, it's not canon, right? It doesn't happen. But I agree. If I'm going out to see a live event and I basically see all these matches, at Starrcade, what was it, 2 weeks ago? They had Braun Strowman and the Fiend in a cage, which wasn't broadcast, but that's still something that happened. There's WWE sometimes has trouble preserving these matches, just keeping them fresh. And I mean the whole Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns in and about itself is a problem because how many times have we seen this match, Patricia?
Like,
but maybe we can we can talk about that once we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, there's really two schools of thought in regards to building pay-per-views these days. Now that pay-per-views don't necessarily depend on paying for the show anymore, where the model has changed, at least for WWE, where you just have to sub to the network, plus you get all sorts of extra content. There's really two schools of thought. One of them is, well, if there's no buildup, I don't get excited. Sure, I can buy into that. But ultimately, there's also again, a bit of a topic that we were talking about before coming on air, but there's the evergreen aspect of pay-per-views going forward. I do retro reviews on Fightful. When we go back and watch, let's say, Road Wild 95 from WCW, we're not necessarily concerned with the storylines or the build-up to that point. There's some matches that are crucial to it, but then we go back and watch it as a capsule in time. Does the show hold up? Hell in a Cell, for all intents and purposes this year, outside of the main event, was a really good show. I thought it was one of WWE's better pay-per-views of the year. And if we go, I'm sure that in 10 years when we start retro reviewing it, we're all going to watch it because of the main event, but then we'll be like, you know what? The rest of the card was pretty decent. So there's that school of thought as well where, build-up is one thing, but the matches, right? It's another angle. The matches might also be really, really good and just keep the pay-per-view dynamic and alive,
Yep. I agree with that.
So anyhow, anyway, we're both in agreement anyway. You and I at this point, regardless what the great thinkers of the world believe, we're both in agreement that it happened really fast. We didn't really have time to get excited for any matches, but there's a couple of good things here, and I think we're going to get into it. I think in the context it also helps. Benoit in the chat says the biggest hype is for the women's tag team championship match. That build was actually great. It is probably the best built match of the card, but we'll get into that because we're going to start talking about the matches, Patricia. I'm going to read them.
Let's get into it.
We got Dave Pozevsky, good guy Dave, just dropped into the chat wishing us good morning.
Hi, good guy Dave.
We like good guy Dave. You know why?
Why?
He's a good guy. I'm gonna read off the matches in reverse order that they're presented on WWE.com. So it's not me editorializing, making choices here. Just going from the bottom of what they're presenting to the top. So we're gonna start by talking about the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders, Patricia, who are issuing an open challenge at TLC. The way that WWE has handled the War Raiders has given me faith back in the squash match, because I think that it did marvels for them to get up to the point where they became tag team champions, and they come across as a really, really dominant tag team. They're issuing an open challenge. I would argue that WWE does not have the most exciting tag team division, especially on Raw. What are your thoughts about this match or this open challenge?
I like the idea of an open challenge because I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the Street Profits accept the challenge. And I don't know if I want the Viking Raiders to lose their championships just yet, because like you said, I love that they have grown into like a dominant tag team on the main roster, where them coming out with the belts, you're like, oh shoot, like who's really gonna like face them? But I think the Street Profits they have such great momentum right now, and they have everything that it takes. Like they have that it factor. Like they're really good in the ring. They're a good tag team in the ring, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, and they're so entertaining. So I think that pop when the Street Profits music hits, and I don't know if it was last week, they had a match and they lost, but it was so good and so if we had one of those situations where Street Profits accepted the Viking Raiders challenge, and then like had a fantastic match and maybe didn't, take home the belts, that's just another step for the Street Profits, in my opinion.
I agree. Just real quickly, I love the Street Profits, but I'm going to tell you, NXT Street Profits, any day over Raw Street Profits, in my opinion. I don't like how their persona is being handled on Raw. I think they're just a little too goofy. I think they're leaning a little too much into Montez Ford's natural comedic abilities. I did not like the SNL stuff on Monday. I thought it was corny. But that being said, the way they're being handled is one thing. This is a team that improved dramatically in NXT. They got so much better. They are deserving of a larger spotlight and a larger audience on Raw, like they're getting. I'm gonna throw in a caveat here, because while the idea of a Street Profits title run is normal and necessary, they lost on Monday against the War Raiders.
Yeah.
On an open challenge.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to happen again. And hear me out. This is my thought here. It's a pay-per-view, right? And you said it yourself, when we were talking about, you don't necessarily want your pay-per-view to feel like an episode of Raw. Despite the fact that they're not giving any build, you don't want it to feel like an episode of Raw. So you need a big challenge. You need something that's going to surprise you. As it stands right now, I don't think there's anyone else on the Raw tag team side that can add that moment of, oh my God, this is the team that's accepting the challenge, other than Authors of Pain right now, AOP.
Right.
And if you want AOP to continue being booked really, really strong like they're doing right now, because finally they're getting it right with AOP.
Yeah.
And if you want this new faction with with Seth and the two of them to be meaningful, to come off as really, really a strong, badass trio, you got to give them the straps, man. You have them accept, and you have them beat the dominant tag team, the tag team that was crushing everyone. And you know what? I can get 100% behind a Viking Raiders AOP feud.
I can too. I'm curious who else besides AOP though. I think you're right. I think they are the only tag team that poses a threat to the Raiders.
Maybe Gallows and Anderson, who are technically the best tag team in the world. If you want to,
right, and they would be getting their belts back, so that's a good idea. Yeah, I would like that as well. I think I don't think the Viking Raiders would lose anything as far as their momentum if they drop the belts tomorrow. It just depends on who. And I think it would have to either be Luke and
Gallows and Anderson.
What's his name? Yes.
I agree.
I think that'll be good.
If the Viking Raiders do drop the titles to AOP, I agree. They don't lose anything, and it just helps elevate AOP. And that's one of the things you have to do with your tag team division. They have to start building like these protected. They have to start building these protected tag teams, these stars of the division. They have to start doing that. What better way than with AOP, who are already credible, in the eyes of the audience. So I'm thinking AOP are going to answer the challenge. This is a 2-part prediction. I think AOP is going to accept the challenge, and they're going to win. What about you? If we wrap this up,
I am gonna hold up hope that the Street Profits still answer the challenge, and I think the Raiders are gonna retain.
Okay, so right off the start, we disagree.
Yeah,
sparks are flying.
And I thought I wanted to come on this show.
Son of a bitch. It's all about him. Next match, we're going to talk about Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy. Look, I'm not going to lie. This is one of the 2 matches that I am most looking forward to this weekend. I am a big Aleister Black fan. Oh wow! Good morning, everyone, and Buddy Murphy as well. Buddy, I'm a 205 Live listener, fan. Buddy Murphy, his title run as Cruiserweight Champion was absolutely phenomenal. You have 2 guys here who are really great strikers, ready to lay it on the other dude, and ready to take it as well. These are guys who are not afraid. I'm looking forward to this match, Patricia.
I am too, and it's one of those where you can argue that there wasn't a build-up, there's no story, but I believe that there was a story. Aleister Black's been asking people to knock on his door for a fight, and Buddy Murphy did that. And because of everything you said about them being good strikers and them being ready to give it all, that's the story for me. And I have to agree with you. This is what I'm looking forward to this match, probably besides the women, of course, because of that simple fact that I know that they are going to enter that ring and it's going to be a this is awesome type match.
Yeah, yes. You touched on it a little bit here. We're talking about stories. I've had a couple of, let's call them discussions with people online regarding storylines in wrestling, where, it's no secret to anyone who watches my stuff that you start a wrestling show with anything but a wrestling match, and you've got 2 strikes against you. Promos starting off shows, especially when they're bookended, when you have a main event segment. I hate those 2.
Oh my God, I have no idea.
Well, see, now we're bridging the gap. Now we're recreating our link here. So oftentimes I'll get into these arguments online. Let's just call them what they are. With people saying, "Well, if you don't have the promos, how do you establish storylines?" Well, I'm like, you tell stories in the ring. You just you let your talented people tell their stories inside the ring without cuck angles, without convoluted whodunits, without you just let them do their thing. And New Japan is a perfect example of that. No one cuts promos in New Japan. No one. You know when they cut promos? After the match in a press conference setting, and then that video ends up on New Japan World and on Twitter. So there's only one promo per match, and it's the winner of the main event who cuts it. It's just that simple. So that's how you tell stories. If you're able to establish strong stars, and most of these people on WWE, regardless of what people think, are very, very talented and creative. You let them do their thing in the ring. And then you can get something like Black versus Murphy that has a very, very short build, but people will get excited about because of how they're presented in the ring.
Yep.
So
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with you. And I think I've been wanting to see more of both of them anyway. So putting them together is just perfect. Like that's something you have to watch. Like that's not a match where you're going to be like, okay, it's time to go to the bathroom, or okay, no, like once the match starts, you're going to be all in.
Sure.
And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's a good story. That's what it's really all about. If you think like pure wrestling, like I think this match on the card is probably the one that tells that story the most.
And sometimes it doesn't take. Yeah, I don't know. You probably watch NXT as well. I don't know how familiar you were with Aleister Black's run there, like his initial run. Aleister Black didn't cut promos when he started. He got over by being foreboding, menacing, and kicking the face out of people in the ring. That's how he got himself over. We will remember with great fondness one of the great feuds of, I think, 2017, he and Velveteen Dream. What the whole basis of that feud was Velveteen Dream wanted Aleister Black to say his name. That was the basis of the feud because Aleister Black never spoke a word. And he eventually did when he did say Velveteen Dream's name when he beat the shit out of him at that takeover.
Oh, I get goosebumps thinking about that. Oh my God, that was epic.
So, I mean, they could just never mind the knock on my door thing. And I think Aleister Black is doing the best he possibly can with what he has. I think he's weirdly getting it over, but they can just take the mic away from him and just let him black mask the shit out of everyone. You know what I mean? Who do you think wins this though?
I say Aleister.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm hoping that it keeps going from then on, and maybe like Royal Rumble have another match.
It'd be nice if they, I agree. If they wanted to stretch this one out, it's definitely one that they could get over. I am completely, I'm an Aleister Black guy, but even on top of that, there's no reason why this guy isn't going to win. And I love Buddy Murphy as well, but I think they're putting a lot of stock into Black right now. So Aleister Black agrees as well. By the way, Chad, if you want to drop your predictions live here, go right ahead.
Let us know.
Real Silent G in the chat. I'm sorry, I just lost track of chat a little bit because I'm having a good time with Patricia. Real Silent G in the chat, hello by the way, says when we were talking about the tag teams, we're backing up a little bit here, says I would like to see someone from NXT challenge the Viking Raiders on TLC. They've been saying, right, that there's no going up to main anymore. Everything is lateral. Do you think that might happen?
No. And the only reason why I say that is because we just came off of that sort of vibe with Survivor Series season. So I don't think they're going to like start doing that again. But watch, because I said that, I'm like completely wrong and Breezango comes out.
Yeah, because there's the other thing. Who do you send? The Forgotten Sons?
Yeah. What other tag teams are there? And who's the champions in NXT? The tag team champions.
Oh well, it's Undisputed Era. But then again, like Bobby Fish is injured again. So like, who do you go back to? Other than that, like you said, there's Breezango. Who am I forgetting? I'm clearly forgetting people. Yeah. Anyway, look. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting, but I find we're a bit in the same problem. Who do you send for it to be a big enough event for Raw? Benoit in the chat says WWE, excuse me, has very few legit badass teams that can be serious contenders for the championships. Makeshift teams usually have a limited shelf life because a singles program will break them up. That is correct.
That's a good point.
Next, we're going to talk about the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. The Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane versus the Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair in a TLC match. Again, I'm going to let you start off here, but I'm, like I said, just to make sure we're clear, I'm reverse order on WWE.com, right? I mean, to me, I shouldn't be talking about this right now, Patricia. This is, in my mind, this is the main event.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell us about the match. I have
so much to say about this match. One, because, okay, so it's a lot to unpack for me here.
Take your time.
I love the Kabuki Warriors. I love them as champions. I think they have done so much with them to where it's like must watch.
Sure.
And no shade to the other tag team champions, but like the Kabuki Warriors, I feel have elevated it to where it's like respected. Like
absolutely.
If the Warriors have a championship match, I care. I want to know who the hell wins. I don't want them to lose the belts anytime soon. I think that they can do so much more with like just they just entertain me, honestly. Like I just want them to just hold the belts a little bit longer and also have more feuds with other women in the division and give them a little bit of rub before they drop the belts to anyone.
Sure.
Charlotte and Becky as a tag team. Everyone knows by now I'm over Becky at the moment. I'm the biggest Becky Lynch fan ever, but I'm just ready for something new. Charlotte, I love you. I love her as well, but I just want new faces. So putting them together is always going to be magic, though. So like, I'm into it. I do not want them to become tag team champions. I think it's going to be one of those things where the same women are kind of hogging the championship scene, and it takes away from other people and actual tag teams in the division. You like Fire and Desire are Fire and Desire, but like they have been a strong tag team for a while. Of course, you have the Iconics. I just think that there are other tag teams that could be in this position, but you also know that this is going to be a great match to close out the year. So I just have so many emotions about this.
And understandably so, because like you said, I'm in one complete agreement with your assessment of the tag team, with the women's tag team titles. They haven't mattered as much. You could make an argument that the stint that Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross had with the titles was probably like the first real good run, you know. But I completely concur that the Kabuki Warriors sort of like boop, just gave it that nudge where you're like, okay, I'm excited to see what happens right now. And they've handled the Kairi Asuka heel turn so fantastically.
I agree.
There's nothing exactly. Yes, chef kiss. There's nothing I think I enjoyed more this year than the promos where Asuka would be like squelching in Japanese into a microphone while Kairi is just behind her cackling. You know,
I love it. I love it.
It was an attack to the senses. It was fantastic. I loved it so much. Didn't understand a thing that was going on, but yeah, I just dug it. It was demonic. I loved it. There is a contingent of people like yourself that, you know, it's like, oh, let's move on from Becky. I'm still very much on the Becky Lynch choo-choo train.
Nice.
I think she should hold the belt right up to WrestleMania, quite frankly. But that's just me. The here's something interesting. This I often like to think about how they're going to handle things moving forward, because next we have Royal Rumble coming up. That's the next big one. We're officially going to head into WrestleMania season. What are they going to do after this match with these women? Because I don't necessarily see Becky and Charlotte winning the titles, though I do see WWE pulling the trigger on it. But like this, to me, I just want to get your thoughts here. This to me is the catalyst to something else for all these women, for some singles matches. You know, last year, Asuka defeated Becky Lynch at Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be interesting if we got that full circle this year and we came back to that for the Raw Women's Championship. Thoughts?
I love the idea of this just being a way to put Becky and Asuka back into a feud, because Becky keeps talking about that one she still has a debt to collect, and that's from Asuka. And I think I say it at least once a week, Asuka tapped out the man at Royal Rumble and took the championship. Like, that happened. Like, I want to just keep putting that out there.
And not only that, Patricia, Becky Lynch, right up until this Monday on Raw, never won a match in which Asuka was involved. Whether it be like Royal Rumble, their match last year, tag matches, fatal four-ways, battle royals, whatever they've had, Becky Lynch, Asuka is the monkey on Becky Lynch's back right now. She's so knowing that kind of knowledge, it kind of sucks that Becky won by DQ this week, because it would have been neat if the slate was completely clean, although she didn't tap out, she didn't lose anything. But it's interesting to think that there's one woman in the entire division that has Becky Lynch's number. Clearly it's Asuka.
Yeah.
So I think
the dynamic is different now because Asuka is a heel. Even Becky's different than, because I just watched that match yesterday from last year's Royal Rumble, and they're both so different, and in a good way though. Like, there's just more like conflict there. So and Becky, because Krista and I were recapping the year, and just Becky's feuds with the Raw Women's Championship. You had your one-offs, like you had your Natty and, the SummerSlam and everything she did, of course, with Charlotte. Then you had Sasha. That was like, okay, oh shit, like, I'm going to watch these two pay-per-view matches because, like, Sasha might just take the belt off of Becky. There has been a lot of feuds Becky was in where we really thought she was going to lose the belt. Like, Lacey Evans wasn't about to take the belt off of her. You know what I mean? So, but singles feud with Asuka, then you're like, oh shoot, like, who really might win this? And then Becky's whole vibe, I do love Becky. Her whole vibe is going to be on another level because Asuka's the one that has her ticket. So I think that's now if this tag team match leads to that, I'm all for it. Do you want to see Becky 2 belts again?
I kind of do. I kind of do. Sure.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad. I'm like one of those people that I like complain about stuff and then it happens and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. So like, I don't want 2 belts on Becky again, but if it happens, it'll be fun. Saturday morning.
We're gushing on this match because obviously this is clearly you and I's top match. This is the one we're most looking for, so it's okay if we gush on it a little more than the others. What I really liked what they did here, and this is one of the reasons why I'm thinking that they might pull the trigger and put the belts on Charlotte and Becky, is that they did take the time in the build-up to this match to clearly establish Charlotte, Becky still don't like each other, but they have receipts to collect from other people and they can do it on their own.
Yeah.
And they don't know who to turn to. So You know, it's really a whelp. Let's just kick their ass together and let us be done with it. But if they win the titles, then they will not be done with it. Then they'll be forced to share the same space again, and that might actually lead us into a WrestleMania match. You know, there's an interesting story to be told there as well. You know,
Yeah.
on top of everything, and you know, I pointed this out on my own show. I think this is another great example of what we were telling before, where you don't need 20-minute promos to get a match over. You let your wrestlers feud about wrestling things.
Yeah.
It's all ego. It's all, oh, she blindsided me. Oh, I'm trying to beat her and I can't. It's just ego. And we understand the principles of ego in wrestling. It's fine.
Yeah. Emphasis on wrestling things, because most of these feuds don't revolve around that.
Especially for the women. You know, cheating, trying to seduce a boyfriend, divorcing, all it. Cattiness. Oh, she's a bully. You know that.
I'm prettier than you.
What's that?
I'm prettier than you, and you're ugly. That's the worst to me.
Yeah. So I mean, it's shocking, right? You let your wrestlers wrestle things, wrestling related things, and it gets over. Go figure. You think the match is going to be wild?
I think it's going to be really good.
I mean, they did have you have three of these four women were in the TLC match last year, and it was great.
They really were.
And then you add Kairi Sane, who doesn't give a shit about her body, really. It's gonna be good. I think it should main event. I am going to go with the Kabuki Warriors retaining, but honestly, I could see it either way. What do you think, Patricia?
I can see them putting the belts on Charlotte and Becky, but I really, 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 really hope the Kabuki Warriors retain.
I think there's a little more upside to the titles to do it, but I see upside to both here, quite honestly.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing about this?
Sure.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about women's matches more. That's just my nature.
That's fine.
I'm not all the way mad at them putting the belts on Charlotte and Becky, only because you look back on the past of WWE and they always put the two top people in a tag team and make them champions for a little while.
Sure.
You know, so I mean, if you want to just go in the same vein as what you guys did with like Stone Cold and Undertaker, you know, I'm okay with that. I think, you know, just because of the history of that.
Sure.
And it's fun. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So I want the Kabuki Warriors to retain.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I like it. Dave in the chat says that Kabuki Warriors versus Charlotte match showed how exciting the Warriors can be. I agree. That was a really fun one. And Charlotte played her role perfectly as well. I thought it was a good match. Real Silent G says, give the women's tag division a chance. We need more tag teams for the women's. Hear, hear. Benoit says, maybe they win the belts and Shayna comes to challenge them with Ronda. Maybe I'm overthinking this. LOL. Yeah, Ben, I think you are just a little bit.
But yeah.
Honestly, if they're going to pull the trigger on Ronda coming back, it's not going to be at TLC.
Yeah, right.
They're at least going to wait until the end of Royal Rumble, which is when she appeared, right? 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
WWE likes their full circle things, right? They like that. Hey, let's talk about your favorite angle of the year and mine. Rusev versus Bobby Lashley in a tables match.
Warren, I was like, oh my God. I'm going to let you start with this one because...
Really? Because I was ready to throw it to you. Because it already feels weird in my mouth. No, listen. Listen, what can we add regarding the cuck angle that hasn't been talked about yet, that hasn't been discussed and torn apart, poked, prodded, analyzed over? It's just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really all it. And I was talking to a woman who writes about wrestling, and we were talking about this storyline about a month ago when it was kind of first like getting started. And she was saying like, I like my cheesy soap opera storylines once in a while if they're executed
Sure.
right. This is not being executed right. I don't know if it's Lana's acting skills. I don't know if it's because we know Lana and Rusev are happily married in real life. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Like, it just does not make sense. Like, one minute you broke up with Rusev because he wants too much sex, and then Bobby is hurt because you guys have sex too much. Then all he wanted, like, it just does not make any
Then
sense.
Rusev wanted to be a father. He wanted, and it was all over the place.
Yeah, and then she also made another point too. Why Bobby? Now, if Rusev and Bobby were like tag team partners back in the like remember when they were teasing it with Aiden English, for
Yeah.
example? That makes more sense because it's like, okay, we were all together at one point. That makes sense. Okay, this Bobby thing, it just doesn't make sense. And to give us another match with it is just like we've seen Rusev slam Bobby into stuff already. Like we've seen like what is a tables match going to do to this feud besides just
No, it's not. It's not going to do anything. Look, no, but honestly, it's not. And this is not going to end. It's not going to end here. We're moving on with it. One of the problems that WWE has with their storytelling is that they give the illusion that their stories are going forward. That there's that every week there's some development. But this is one of these great cases here because usually when you write a story, you go from point A to point B, then point B to point C to D, and so on and so forth until you get to a conclusion, a denouement, In this case, and this is a pattern that's happened regularly in WWE, you're treading water. You're on a treadmill, essentially. You're just running over the same thing week after week. Week after week, there wasn't really new developments. It was Lana coming out, saying there's a restraining order that was put on Rusev. Rusev appears nonetheless. Stuff happens. And it's the rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's not what a storyline is. That's extending the same thing. You're just saying the same thing over and over again, but with events happening, but it's still always the same thing. There's no progression. It took us, maybe over a month, maybe 5 weeks to get to the divorce contract signing, that's an event. That's a turning point. That's something that happened.
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why this doesn't work, on top of the fact that, the whole angle is stupid. And if anything, if 2019 is anything, Patricia, it's the year of the cuck angle. This one, now they're doing it with, or at least a variant of it on SmackDown with Drake Maverick,
Right.
the Maria Kanellis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, and I feel like I'm forgetting one too, but
Yeah, we've been going back to Naomi and Mandy even.
It's been
so
bad.
lazy.
But I will say this. Rusev is getting himself over again.
Yes. And it just reminds you that Rusev has always been over.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he was a heel with Lana.
Sure.
Like we've never had an issue with accepting Rusev. That's why it's annoying that this is, and then he was gone for a while. That was the other annoying thing about this storyline. Him and Lana were gone for a while, and this is how they brought him back in this storyline. But it does make you love Rusev because it's just like, oh, poor guy. And he looks the best he's looked in so long. And I'm loving that. This is a little off topic, but I love how superstars have been getting breaks.
Yep.
Because they come back so refreshed. Like Rusev looks like a new person. He's performing like a new person. Yep. So I don't know. Who you got winning this?
There's a lot of noise coming from your end all of a sudden again.
My end?
Yeah.
Okay, how's now?
Whoa. It's like the wind again. It's like there's this crazy interference. Okay, it's better now for some reason. I didn't know what you did, but it's better.
Okay.
Ew, that was strange. It's as if ghosts took over your camera. I think Rusev is going. Not, excuse me. I think Rusev is going to lose this. I think Bobby Lashley has a lot more to gain out of this. Like we said, Rusev is over. It doesn't matter. Rusev's not going to lose anything. Honestly, I don't. Outside of this angle, I don't see how Bobby Lashley is. I don't see how this serves Bobby Lashley. Rusev could get himself over wrestling a sack of rocks for a month. He really could. That's how good this guy is. Yeah. Lashley needs all the help he can get.
How do you feel about Bobby? I'm curious.
What's that?
How are you? How do you feel about Bobby? Like, were you a fan of his before this?
I was a fan of his Impact stuff. I thought in Impact he was wonderfully booked.
I hear you. Yeah.
I think he's really he's been mishandled in WWE right up until they paired him with Lio Rush, where I finally thought that this was interesting because Lio was a great mouthpiece for him. It was just ridiculous enough with the glutes and the posing and all of that. I think it was just I thought that was something that would help him get over. He's going to need this Lana thing to extend for him. He's going to have to be paired with Lana for a while. And once we're done with Rusev, I don't know what they're going to do with him moving forward. Just because I think they've burned him out a little bit. So that's why I feel like he needs the win most here. What do you think, Patricia?
I think it's gonna end on something stupid. I think like some sort of DQ, like whether it's like Lana doing something or because like you said, it's not. I don't think they want this to end anytime soon. So I could see it just being like I don't know.
I don't know if it can end on a DQ because it's a tables match.
That is true. Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby with a lot of interference from Lana.
I think so too. Next, we're going to talk about the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, The New Day versus The Revival. It's been announced last night, fresh off the presses. It's a ladders match. Patricia.
A good match.
Just got me a little more excited for it. I was excited for it. Now I'm like, ooh, this is going to be good. What do you think?
Ladders. I like that it's a ladder match. I love the Revival. They've really grown on me. I was a fan in NXT because the landscape there is like what we were talking about before, of just like telling stories in the ring, and like the Revival are like the old school tag team wrestlers where they're that they can do that. Unpopular opinion, I didn't want the New Day to be champions again, but that's from a Dream Survivor Series match I wanted with the triple threat. I thought the Revival being in that match would have been awesome, but I mean, it's the New Day. So, and then with ladders, Kofi Kingston with freaking ladders, like this is going to be amazing.
And we're always talking about Kofi Kingston with a ladder, but Big E likes to launch himself off of stuff too.
That is true. I should not count him out.
That's a frightening prospect. Whenever Big E does his YOLO dive, and whoever takes it, I'm like, man, you have so much bravery and courage to just stand there and take it. That's crazy. This was a match I was really like when they announced it, when the Revival won. I was like, okay. I mean, we've seen it before. This is not a new match, but when you put in two teams who know how to tag team wrestle, who are really, really, really good at it, and you put them together, good stuff is going to happen. This basically, in essence, it's a good to great match waiting to happen. And you add ladders to it. It's just that little extra something where you're like, ooh, this could get brutal really, really quickly. And I'm looking forward to it. The Revival, I want to get your thoughts here on this. The Revival never been shy really about, their contracts coming up. Not quite sure if they want to stay. They're ending up in March, I think, something like that. March or June, I don't quite remember. Do you think that might have an impact on a win here, perhaps?
I can see them because I don't know if I remember correctly. The last time they kind of talked about their not being happy, they became champions not so long after.
True.
So I can see them doing the same thing because I was on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. So I would love to see the Revival win, especially because they're explaining. So let's say you didn't watch NXT and the Revival come into their main roster. They're not as fun as like the New Day. They're not as fun as like Heavy Machinery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they don't have like a particular gimmick, I guess.
They're not sports entertainers.
Yes, perfect way to explain it. But I like that lately they're explaining that more.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the promo last week where they were just like, we're bringing it back to, old school tag team wrestling. And that I think is going to put them in a further trajectory for fans that may not get them. You know what I mean? Like may not be like, what's the big deal about the Revival? I think they're on a good momentum. And I think even if they don't win, I think this is good for them. And I think that they'll be put in a position where they want to stay.
I probably look, what I really like, and I'm in complete agreement as well. The fact that they established themselves as like an old school tag team. I think it's great. That's what they are essentially. And yeah, maybe it does answer to that contingent of the audience that talked about Kofi Kingston during his championship run. Is like, well, he has to act like a serious champion now. What's up with the fucking pancakes? It's so. I think that there's a lot of good to come out of there between you and I. And it's not. I'm just saying this. I don't have any inside information. I'm not an insider. I'm just a guy with a microphone and glasses. I don't think the Revival are sticking around, regardless of what they throw at them. These are guys. One thing I do know is that the Revival were when they decided to stay, or at least started considering, because they haven't re-signed technically because their contracts are up. All they wanted was for the tag team division to be taken seriously, because these guys are wrestlers, and it's not always about the money. It's not always a question of for these men and women. It's not always a question of how much money am I being thrown at, or is thrown at me, excuse me. Jon Moxley said in an interview this week or last week, said that, I sort of regret, the amounts of money that WWE was throwing at me. But then again, look, I'm over here and I'm happy. I'm doing a good time. Santana and Ortiz, they were on Chris Van Vliet's show, and they said WWE told us, write your own ticket. Tell us how much you want. We'll pay it. And yet they're in AEW. And I think the Revival is in that category as well. And honestly, if I'm a tag team who takes as much pride in what they do as the Revival does, I want to be in AEW, because that's where the best tag team division in the world is right now. That's where I want to go. Plus, they're friends with the Bucks.
Right.
The Bucks tweeted out at Dash Wilder last night when he tripped. They tweeted out at him. So, I don't know. I kind of, because of all of that, I kind of see the New Day hang on to the titles, because I really do kind of feel like the Revival they're on the cusp of their farewell tour.
I can see that. Yeah.
But I could, you never know. And if there's anything I like in wrestling, I like doing prediction shows, but I like being surprised. I like it when my predictions are wrong most of the time.
Same.
Who do you think is going to win?
I think the New Day. I think they're going to retain. But I'm going to really enjoy the match.
I think so too. It's the match in and about itself is going to be fantastic. Final match that we are going to talk about: Roman Reigns versus King Corbin in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. It's to me, there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna throw it over to you. It's hard to get excited with Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin because we've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
And even in minor feuds on Raw and whatever, like just the thought of them fighting again, Patricia, it just
I'm over it. I'm so over it. And not just because, like, I love Baron Corbin. I like King Corbin as a heel. I think he's doing so well, especially after hearing that he loves it and he knows how much we hate him. But this whole Roman Reigns thing, we've seen, we've seen it so many times. Like, how many SmackDowns have been anchored by the two of them beefing with each other?
sure.
It's just like, and then we talked before about the bookend shows where we open up with Baron Corbin talking for 20 minutes, and then it happened Friday. It turned into one match, turned into then a tag team match. Then it's like, and then Roman Reigns ends up coming out anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it doesn't seem new to me. It doesn't seem fresh to me. Baron Corbin is such a good heel. Put him with any other good guy at this point. Like, why do we have to see him and Roman? Or do they want to just play it safe for the last pay-per-view of the year and just be like, you know what? Let's just do this, what we've been doing, because we know that this is the ultimate heel versus baby face. Let's just do it for the last pay-per-view. I don't know, but it's been done.
Yeah, it's been done. That's the thing. And to counterpoint you, I don't care for King Corbin. And it's different from me not liking Baron Corbin, because Baron Corbin this year gave me a very good reason to like him. And it was called the King of the Ring tournament, where he was real good.
Yeah.
Everything he did, his promos were on point. They were sharp. His in-ring work was real good, the best that we've seen him easily since NXT.
Agreed.
He won all his matches fairly. You know, like and at some point you're even like, you felt bad for him when he was supposed to get a bye in the tournament but ended up in a triple threat match with Ricochet and Samoa Joe, and he was like, why am I not getting a bye? And you're like, yeah, why isn't he getting a bye? So and throughout all that sequence, I was like, you know what? I'm all on board Baron Corbin. But then what they do is they turn around and they give him all this corny shit. They have him lean too much into the King stuff. They have him try to get under Roman Reigns' skin by having him play with his animated dog Titantron intro. Have him come out with a mascot wearing Roman Reigns' merchandise, pouring dog food on him. It's stupid. I'm going to tell you, last week when they chained up Roman to the post, I thought that we were going to get King of Westeros Baron Corbin for a second, where he was going to take his scepter and just start beating the shit out of Roman. Maybe get some accidental blood, you know?
Yeah.
And because the visual of Roman just hanging there and getting hard was really, really good. And then they pull out the dog food. And I'm like, of course, right? It had to be something really, really stupid. But just have Baron just beat the shit out of him. Vicious, you know? And I like that aspect of Baron Corbin, which I think is underplayed, because then they want him to be, the Applebee's GM. They want him, you know, they always have something stupid for him. And then on the flip side, I don't think it makes Roman Reigns look good. If I'm Roman Reigns, if I am legitimately one of the top 3 guys in the company, and you have this other guy who's bringing out mascots with my merch, I am above that shit. I'm like, I'm not even going to respond to that. But you come at me, you make fun of my family, you make fun of the fact that I had leukemia, you tie me up and you beat me up. That's stuff that Roman Reigns can be like, yeah, you know what? Now I'm coming after you. But the other, it kind of makes Roman look petty. And I
Mm,
kind of feel Roman, especially a guy who's in remission of cancer.
yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
like,
You mean
do your little skits. I'm above this shit, and I'd buy into it. It kind of makes Roman look dumb by association too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. Because now your quest is this guy poured dog food on. Like that's your mission, and then you go to like the Miz and Bray Wyatt. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's weird. The but that being said, I think they're doing a great job booking Roman these days. I think they're doing a really, really good job. The audience is behind him. I think the way that they've approached his character, letting a little more Joe Anoa'i pop. I didn't pronounce that right, but letting a little more Joe come out as opposed to scowling, serious Roman Reigns all the time is a good idea because he's relatable. He's so charismatic. He's a good talker. He's very human.
Yeah, and we care about him as a human now
Yeah,
than like before. So yes, Joe, be you because
it
we
works.
all, yeah, it works now.
It works. So I think they're doing a good job with him. So, you know, I don't want the audience to turn on him again. I don't, because I like Roman Reigns.
Me too. I've been liking his second run, and I wasn't always a huge Roman fan, because they used to just shove him down our throats too much.
Exactly.
And he got sick, and then I felt bad, and then he came back, and I think they've been booking him great. Like I'm so on board. I can't wait till this Baron feud is over.
Well, does it end here? Who wins this match?
Oh, Roman.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Like, yeah.
This has to end. It has
Yeah.
to end.
Yeah.
Final match of the evening that we're going to, or the day anyway, that we're going to talk about because it's not the evening yet. Universal Champion Bray Wyatt versus The Miz. Title is not on the line though, Patricia.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Because there's no singles titles being defended at TLC.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Okay, so we're clearly getting Bray Wyatt as opposed to The Fiend. So that's something interesting. How do you feel that they're going to lean into this? Like how are we, what do you think this is leading to as far as Bray's performance?
I think they want to explore the option of having him wrestle as a Fiend and Bray Wyatt because okay, I was afraid when the Fiend became Universal Champion because I didn't want him to be overexposed.
Right.
I didn't want the Fiend to be like coming out every week doing promos. Like I'm very protective of the Fiend. So I was always just like, okay, if they make him champion, like what are they gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with him attacking the Miz as Bray Wyatt is them just giving that other option for themselves to have Bray Wyatt perform as Bray Wyatt.
Sure.
Because the Fiend is just such a dense character. You don't want to have him out all the time. And then I think it also makes it a little bit more personal. It's like, like that family photo. I've loved every second of this whole Bray Wyatt and The Miz because it started out with The Miz just wanting answers. Like, you and Daniel Bryan were doing that.
Sure.
What's going? And then Bray Wyatt was like, you know what? Now you're my target. And it's only been a couple weeks, but I've really liked it. But then I think the people involved, like The Miz is The Miz and it's Bray Wyatt. So I like that it's a singles match. I think, I don't think The Miz needs to be in a title match necessarily. Right. And then it's TLC, it's December, like this is fun. Like it's an entertaining angle. It'll be a fun match. I see Bray Wyatt winning, of course. But I think this is one of those short build-ups and stories that I think has been really fun.
I think it's been effective as well, and you raise an excellent point in regards to keeping the whole Fiend thing fresh. Just having Bray Wyatt come out to wrestle as opposed to the Fiend. I think that's good, and it makes this stuff up, and it makes us as fans interested a little more in this match just to see you know, what they're going to do. Clearly, we're not going to get the mood lighting, which is good. No Amsterdam red light district stuff going on. But I want to get your thoughts on something, because it's something I've talked about on my show and on the Fightful post shows as well. I'm annoyed with the Universal Championship being put on the Fiend, and when I say we, I mean me and Sean, the whole Fightful guys, and myself. We've been talking about this for a while. When Hell in a Cell came around, or at least Crown Jewel, whatever. Putting the Universal title on the Fiend was not a good idea, because the Fiend doesn't need it. Bray Wyatt doesn't need it. He is an interesting character because he's a predator, right? Because he lurks and then he strikes. Then he focuses on someone, and then it's like, I'm going to take you down. And then the story that they're telling here is that you face the Fiend and you change. And I like the fact that they linked Finn Balor to this. Finn Balor going to NXT and becoming a bit of an asshole. I like that. I like how it's changed Seth. He's become an asshole as well. Well, he's leaned into the fact that he's an asshole. And now Daniel Bryan's disappeared. So I like, so that's a much more compelling story than he as a champion. But you see, all the stories that they're telling about Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, they have nothing to do with the Universal title, the Universal Championship. They have nothing to do with them. The Universal title is not even a prop in these matches. We don't care about it. And I don't know about you, it kind of bothers me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. But then you have to remember that the Universal Championship, you know, it has that history of like having a presence on the shows. Sure. They're never there, or, you know, so I'm not surprised that they put the belt on Bray Wyatt. And I'm not surprised that it's not used in his feuds, because that belt, just like I said, it's just somewhere out in the universe sometimes, and then it comes back when it wants to be defended. So I'm not surprised, but I don't think he needed it. I really don't. I think his character is strong enough and could carry anything it's doing with anyone else without the championship being involved, because we're talking about a singles match on a pay-per-view with the Universal Championship, and the Universal Championship has not even been mentioned at all. So what does that do to this championship belt? And I'm all about giving the rest of the roster opportunities and stuff like that. So what happens is, and why I didn't actually like Becky two belts, because what happens is it gets hogged with one person, and then it's just there, and then you have the rest of this division with kind of just like nothing to do. Now the Fiend every feud the Fiend has had, he could have had without the belt, and the championship could have been doing its own thing with other people at the same time, and it never would have lost any of the momentum at all. Because like you said, when we talk about the Fiend, no one cares about the championship. Like, it's all about the spectacle, it's all about the hunt and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I agree with all of you guys.
At least save it for WrestleMania. You know, like, at least save it for something special where the Fiend is like, look, I have devoured everyone. There's nothing left for me to do, kind of thing, you know, except win this toy. Because I kind of...
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Do you think they put the championship on Bray because of the Hell in a Cell debacle with Seth? Do you think they were like, oh shit, like people are so unhappy, like let's find a way to put the belt on the Fiend? Because it didn't seem to me that they wanted to put the belt on the Fiend at first.
I think we give shit a lot for WWE for not paying attention to the audience and not listening to the audience. I think, and I think this is an instance where they were like, well, Bray Wyatt is getting some really big reactions. We should pull the trigger and give him the title. Kind of like what they did with Kofi, which was a smart move to do. The Kofi build was organic. It made sense. That was one of these moments where you're like, hey, good job, WWE. Whereas here, Bray was super hot, but Bray's character is so big, the Fiend, and even Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt is so huge that it just the title got lost in the shuffle here. It wasn't a good idea. And I really do think that they thought they were doing good by the fans. I really do.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe it's just a way for them at the same time. I mean, and here's another thing. Let's not take away everything that Bray Wyatt has done himself to put himself back over with the crowd. Because this has been the greatest reinvention of the past 2 to 3 years, easily. So maybe it's also just a way to say, you know what, Bray? You did such a fantastic job. You're over like crazy. You're clearly one of the biggest acts in the company. Plus, you're making us money with all your merch sales. We're selling $7,000 belts, replica belts of that stretchy thing. So thank you here. Yes, have a run with the title. And ultimately, when we look back at Bray Wyatt's career, we'll be able to say, well, he was champion for X amount of months or days or whatever. So that's good, because the last time he held the WWE Championship, he was a transitional champion between to just give the title to Randy Orton ultimately, and who then lost it to Jinder Mahal. I just want to put that out there. That did happen. I think it's a bit of a reward thing situation, but I ultimately there's a little. The fact that we're not interested in the title says a lot about the strength of the Bray Wyatt character and the Fiend and what they're doing with it. And then it also says a lot about how WWE perceives its championships and stuff. Danielle, here I am pronouncing it in a way that it shouldn't be. Daniel Price in the chat. How you doing, Daniel? Says, I told all these people, I love Daniel. I told all these people that were so gung-ho to put the title on Bray so fast would result in an impossible booking situation and a Lesnar-esque scarcity of title appearances. And I agree, that's pretty much how it is. And he also adds directly to you, Queen Patricia. He says, Queen, they've already, being WWE, they already have way too many titles anyway, which is also, I mean, but then again, they have so many titles, but they're not defending any of the singles titles at this pay-per-view anyway. So this match here, let's have a little fun just before we close this out.
Okay.
What is Bray Wyatt's entrance? Like, he's not going to come out with the severed head lantern, is he, right? Like, what are they going to do?
I see him coming out with that weird doll.
With the one,
the one that Monroe was playing with.
Okay, the one in the
like
crib.
I see him coming out with a friend kind of thing. Like, it's like the most normal thing. I just see him being like, oh, I'm just here with little, I would call her Abigail. I'm just here with Abigail. She's just gonna stay here with me and while I take care of this, and then that could piss him off because his daughter was playing with it.
Do you think he comes out?
I want more of the Firefly Funhouse to be associated with her.
Sure.
As the Fiend, or like, because my thing is, he has to come out with the same effect on the crowd as the Fiend, like he can't just come out like a regular superstar.
But he's gonna come out like in his Mr. Rogers personality, like he's, hi everyone, it's like,
Warren, I would love that.
That'd be great.
I would love that.
But he has to do that.
It's like, hi, and they're like terrified of him.
And he's got like Mercy the Buzzard, next to him, it's like, but he has to do something like that. And does he come out to the Firefly Funhouse theme? Does he come out to his old theme? Like, that's it. I'm really curious as to what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I am so intrigued now because I didn't even think of that. I'm so intrigued now.
I mean, honestly, that's going to be the highlight for me there. And Daniel Price seems to agree. He says he'll be smiley. He's basically been in the chat saying everything that I've been saying, like with a fraction of a second between us, and he says, "Get out of my head, Warren." um, who wins?
Right.
There's that odd sound again.
I don't know what that is. That must be my Wi-Fi.
Okay, and you see and then you start talking, and it subsides. It's as if you have a calming effect on your Wi-Fi. The sound of your voice is so soothing. You're like Snow White for internet connections.
It's me.
And instead of birds chirping around your shoulders, it's like your Wi-Fi just goes. Okay, one last thing. One last thing. Does Daniel Bryan get involved in some way or form?
See, I was thinking that too. I was thinking because they did tease that a new member of the Firefly Funhouse is going to come. I don't know if they meant his new belt or whatever. People were speculating about Liv Morgan, but Daniel Bryan has disappeared, and he has changed somewhat. I can totally see Daniel Bryan coming out, interfering in the match, because then he also, and this will be great too because he has history with the Miz.
Yep.
Like it just writes itself. And if Daniel Bryan comes back like some weird, like just real dark and just like just weird, I would love that.
I kind of like it too. So, I'm kind of hoping we see I'm kind of hoping we see that, and it furthers the idea that you fight the Fiend and you're changed. You know, it continues that. I'd really like it. I kind of see Bray Wyatt winning though. I don't see really the Miz. I don't see the Miz winning this. And even and Daniel Price says, I think Miz goes for the skull crushing finale. Bray reverses it into Sister Abigail. Sure. That'd be fun.
Question: do you see the Miz and Bray Wyatt feud ending at TLC, or do you see it going further?
It depends what they do with Daniel Bryan, because I think let's say that Daniel Bryan does become once again, because there's history there too, once again a disciple of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt could continue feuding with The Miz via proxy through Daniel Bryan. You know, where The Miz over the past couple of weeks has been like, I've been worried about you, Bryan. I don't like you, but, you know, I know how much you mean to the fans and I've been, as a father, I relate. I've been worried about you. Daniel Bryan doesn't give a shit. Daniel Bryan's been changed. He's locked up in a boiler room somewhere with the Fiend, you know, just screwing with his brain, breaking his psyche kind of thing. So he comes back and then he goes back into a feud with The Miz, which already has a basic story. It has their history, but then you add this little layer on top, because at the same time, if the Universal title is not being defended at TLC, it has to be defended at Royal Rumble. They have to do something with it. I don't know what you do necessarily. That's why I'm very curious to see. I see this going forward if Daniel Bryan aligns himself with Bray Wyatt, because then Daniel Bryan and The Miz can be like a proxy feud. Yeah. To eventually lead to another blow off between Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I love that, Warren. I'm all for that.
Well, there we go. So that was our TLC predictions. Patricia, overall, do you think this is going to be a good show, a great show, average? What's your gut feeling, just to wrap this up?
My gut feeling is that it's going to be an average to good show. Because it's December, it's so soon after Survivor Series. None of the big titles are being defended. I think there are going to be a lot of great moments, though. I think it's going to be a mediocre show with like really, really good moments.
I'm expecting something that is going to surprise a lot of people. There's just too many potentially exciting matches here for it to be a snoozer. Quite honestly, I agree it's a transitional pay-per-view, but I think there are too many good elements here for it to not be a good time. Patricia, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on this morning on the stream. It was really, really good, and had a lot of fun talking with you. Let the good people know where to find you on social media, your podcast. The floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm one half of those wrestling girls. You can find our podcast on YouTube. So please subscribe, like, comment any videos, share with a friend. We're also on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please search our show everywhere you listen to your podcast. We just put out our Best of 2019 episode. So please check those out. And then our Twitter handle's right underneath my name. And we have a Facebook, Instagram, and all that good stuff.
They're everywhere, and they're everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I've again, stuff that we were talking about off air before we started. They do fantastic work. They have a really, really great podcast, and there's a lot of people who say we need more different voices in wrestling media. It can't always be the old white dudes, the middle-aged old white dudes, and just right here. And it's important, and not only is it important, but when it's done well and with passion and with brilliance, like these ladies do, it makes it all the more special. So please, 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 please do find them, do seek them out, subscribe, listen. It's not only refreshing, it's good. It's really, really good stuff. So, but thank you again. Thank you so much again, Patricia, for joining me. And thank you everyone for joining us live, listening on podcast platforms everywhere, so on and so forth. Quick reminder, if you're watching this live on Saturday, tonight, I will be doing the Fightful NWA Into the Fire post show right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes because of the Fightful YouTube channel situation. Hasn't been settled yet. So I'll be doing it right here. So be sure to come back for that after NWA Into the Fire. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also going to be talking a bit about Ring of Honor. So join me there. Find Patricia and those wrestling girls everywhere on the internet. Thank you very much for what is going on? Oh, there we go. I got confused there for a second. Thank you all so very much for coming out, and I will